Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Larry Schwartz, Secretary to Governor Cuomo. To my far left is Allison Gallus, the Communication Director for Governor Cuomo, and Gil Quinones, who's the CEO and President of the New York State Power Authority. And of course, to my immediate left is Governor Cuomo. Just as a quick update, just want to let everyone know that the state continues to deploy all of its assets throughout the downstate region in all the impacted areas from Hurricane Sandy. We have the National Guard continues to be out there on both Long Island as well as in Westchester, New York City, providing support services, distributing food. We're out there using our state assets to deliver the food that's also been contributed by our corporate partners, as well as construction material that has been donated by a number of corporations, getting it out into those areas around the affected communities that need it most to help with debris removal and other needs that have been identified working with our local OEM partners on Long Island, Westchester, Rockland, as well as New York City. And with that update, I'd like to turn it over to Governor Cuomo.
Great. Thank you very much, Larry. And I'd also like to thank Gil Quinones for his great work at the New York Power Authority and Allison Gallus for her great work as Director of Communications. We're making steady progress, as we've discussed. We're not home yet. We have a long way to go. And just in terms of calibrating expectation, this is not going to be a short journey for these communities. It's not going to be a short journey for this state. You're talking about rebuilding thousands of homes. You're talking about building new homes. You don't build a new home that quickly. You're talking about restoring communities. There are businesses that were lost. Fabric of the community in many places has been torn and has to be reconstructed. So this is not going to be a short process. I think we will be the better for it at the end of the day, but it's going to be a long day, and we just have to be prepared for that. On gasoline, the supply chain continues to be repaired. The supply continues to increase. We have gone to a odd-even system, as you know, in New York City, Nassau, and Suffolk. There is no one situation when it comes to gas in the region. It's actually varied depending on where you are. It's a little different in Nassau and Suffolk, a little different in New York City. It's much different Westchester, Rockland, Orange. We did not have any rationing system in Westchester, Rockland, Orange. You don't have the same lines. You actually have the same supply issues in Westchester, Rockland, and Orange, but not the same lines. And in some ways, the long lines beget long lines. People see the long lines, they get anxious, they panic, they think they better get online to get the gas. Westchester, Rockland, Orange, you don't have the long lines, people are calmer, it actually makes the situation better. So we have no system in place for Westchester, Rockland, Orange. New York City, Nassau, and Suffolk, where there was a problem, Nassau and Suffolk more because the latest nor'easter aggravated the situation, knocked out more with power. We lost more gas stations that didn't have power. So we put in a system that is the same system in all areas. The system is synchronized. We didn't want people shopping from one county to the other, or going from New York City to Nassau, or from Nassau to Suffolk to try to shop at different stations. So we put the entire system, same system in place all across the board. Reports are that the lines are shorter by definition. And more than anything, one of the things we have to do is just get buyers to relax. And I hope these shorter lines help people relax, because we're now creating our own problem to a certain extent. And the anxiety and the panic is creating more demand. The A service is going to be restored on Rockaway Peninsula. It's going to be restored on Sunday morning. There will be a shuttle bus service for part of it, but that will be restored on Sunday morning. That's good news. The Rockaway Peninsula is an area that really was devastated and had a lot of damage, so that restoration is important. N-train service in Brooklyn will begin limited service this afternoon. So that's also good news. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which was probably the single most damaged large transportation infrastructure component, we hope to be open by buses by the end of next week. But the damage incurred at the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, the UL Carey Tunnel, I have to get used to saying that now, was truly severe. And many of you saw the pictures of the floor-to-ceiling water, so you can understand why it's taking as long as it has. Once again, I urge local governments to pick up the debris. I know there's a lot of debris. I know there's more debris coming as people are cleaning up their houses. It's very important that we get the debris off the roads and off the yards, and I truly would like their cooperation with that. It's the end of the week, and we've been using a lot of numbers and a lot of facts and a lot of figures. I just want to provide a little context for some of the discussion that we've had, and we will continue to have, because the context is important here. In terms of how many people have been affected, we don't have a definitive number right now. If you needed a proxy for a number, you would look to the number of people who have requested FEMA aid so far, and that's about 154,000 people have requested FEMA aid already. That number will go up. Many people have just not been in a position or organized to get it done yet, but 154,000 so far. When you look at the distribution of where those people are, it's actually interesting. You have about 88,000 in the New York City area. You look at the percentage of the population, you see in Richmond, Staten Island, 3% of the population has requested already money from FEMA. That's one of the highest percentages. 88,000 in New York City, 60,000 for Long Island. Nassau, 3.3% of the population in Nassau has already requested FEMA aid. So the largest percentage of population is Nassau, 1% in Suffolk. And then you see Rockland, Westchester, how it was much less of a factor. But when we talk about the number of people and where they are, I think that's instructive. We also talk about the power numbers. Today, we're pleased to report 96% of the people have had their power restored. That means 4% of the people outside of impacted areas do not have power. As I've said, the only number that matters to me is the 4%. And that 4 has to go to 3, has to go to 2, has to go to 1, has to go to 0. And I will not rest until that number is 0. It doesn't really matter to you that 96% of the people have their power on if you don't have your power on, right? There's only one number that counts for people, and that's their number. And until their house is on, their home is on, nothing matters, and we understand that. So the 96, we're pleased with the progress, but we have further to go. That leaves out what's been called the impacted areas. We've been talking about the impacted areas. The impacted areas are areas that were heavily flooded and have sustained so much damage that the companies, the utility companies, don't feel comfortable turning on the power until they have checked individual homes and individual buildings. Why? Because if you have a code problem in one of the homes or one of the buildings, you have a gas problem, a gas leak, you have an electrical problem, you turn on the power, you energize that house, you could actually create a fire, an explosion, etc. So these numbers that we've been talking about all week leave out the impacted communities. Impacted communities are about 100,000 people. The Long Island Power Authority National Grid services about 64,000 of those customers. Con Edison about 36,000 for about 100,000. And when you look at the communities, you can see it runs right along the coast, obviously. You have Staten Island, and then you go to Manhattan Beach, and it goes to Broad Channel, and it works its way right down the Nassau South Shore and the Suffolk South Shore, hits Far Rockaway especially hard, hits Long Beach especially hard, goes into Suffolk, Mastic Beach, Lindenhurst. and you see the numbers all along the way. The total is about 100,000. So when we talk about the restorations, remember, you have communities of thousands of people that have not yet received power, and until you go building by building, you can't restore that community. And you have some people who have buildings and have homes that you cannot turn on the power until that building or home is significantly repaired or replaced. And those are going to be the most difficult situations to deal with. Also, I've been talking a lot about the utility companies and the utility companies' performance. What's interesting here is the performance among utility companies has varied. And if you look at when the utility companies had a total loss of power and how quickly they repaired those people in their district who they were responsible for, obviously, you have different rates of recovery. And some utility companies got the power back on faster than other utility companies. Orange in Rockland and Con Ed in Westchester were slower to restore power proportionately than LIPA, Con Ed, New York City, or NYSEG. I've promised the people of this state accountability. One of the questions I want to know is why is there that kind of variance in performance? Why did some companies get the power on faster? Why did some companies get the power on slower? And that's what this graph shows. Also, you see that there's a variance in what percent of that utility company's customers actually experienced outages. So for Long Island Power Authority, 87% of their customer base lost power, close to 90%. Just think about that. That's basically all of Long Island. 90% of Long Island lost power. Con Edison, about 25% of their total population of customers lost power. NYSEG and Orange and Rockland, well, NYSEG, to go back for a second, only 13% lost power, which may explain one of the reasons why they were one of the higher performers. Orange and Rockland, 67% lost power. So all of this, there is a variance in the way the utility companies have performed. One of the issues that we'll pursue afterwards is why. Why was it that variance? Why do some people get their power on faster than others? We have an additional 1,600 crews that will be coming into the state to help the utility companies. Other states, other regions are getting their power back. As they are releasing crews, we are recruiting them to come into the state. If people have been driving around, you'll see utility crews from all across the country, literally now. You'll see them from down south. You'll see them from out west. We actually asked the Department of Defense to fly in utility crews for us at one point, and we will still be getting additional crews because, as we said, until the 4% have power, we're going to continue working 100%. The silver lining to this situation all along has been watching New Yorkers rise to the occasion and watching New Yorkers be New Yorkers and help one another and be great neighbors and be resilient and be courageous. The other silver lining has been to see the outpouring of support for us, for New York State, for the people of the state, on all levels, individual contributions, corporate contributions. We were with Lowe's and Sears and Home Depot, and we were handing out their goods today, and it made a big difference to people. And that continues. And we're pleased to announce the launch of the Empire State Relief Fund, which will be a charity that will raise money that will be dedicated primarily to permanent housing solutions in the entire metropolitan region, all affected areas. The board of directors of that organization is Jane Rosenthal, James Simon, Richard Sirota, Ron Blaylock, and Bill Rudin, and I want to thank them for their help and their assistance. It will be filming a public service announcement to raise awareness and funds. On the public service announcement will be Robert De Niro, Michael Fox, Whoopi Goldberg, and Al Pacino. So that's very exciting. And they'll join an all-star lineup of some of New York's biggest names in sports and entertainment who have already agreed to help raise money. I also want to thank ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC Universal, Time Warner Cable, Cablevision, and Google for their offer to run the PSA. So thank them all very much. And it is heartening for everyone to see this kind of outpouring of support. So we thank them. Questions?
Governor, just wondering if you had an update on the housing situation. We had heard at one point there was even considering maybe using state-run facilities, for example, that might be underutilized. Manhattan Psychiatric comes to mind on Randall's Island. Has that been looked into, and is there any solution, I guess, to the housing needs of the police?
Zach, we don't have any, the shelter situation is under control. Obviously, those facilities wouldn't be suitable for permanent housing. But we're working aggressively on permanent housing plans and expediting repairs, but not using state facilities for permanent housing, no.
Can you address the press conference on Long Island today concerning calling in President Obama and the military and FEMA and DOE? Were you consulted about that, and what do you think of that plan?
Well, look, people are frustrated in Long Island. People are frustrated in Westchester. People are frustrated on Staten Island. I'm frustrated. It's been a long time without power. We understand that a storm hit, and the storm was catastrophic, but it's been difficult, and it's been hard. And people want help, and people want answers, and people are frustrated. And I understand local elected officials calling for federal help and more FEMA help and more assistance.
But how do you see that request? Do you see it as a slap at you? And isn't it your authority to do something about lifeline? I mean, it seems
I don't
to me
have
that-
any more
Are
resources.
they going over your head?
No, I'm asking for more federal help also, just so we're clear.
Were you consulted on this?
Yeah,
meeting?
yes. I know that they are asking for more federal help. I've been asking for federal help also, you know. I'm looking for a 100% reimbursement from FEMA. I think as much aid as we can get into this state, we're going to need. So, no, I understand the frustration, and I understand the call for more federal help.
But doesn't LIPA report to you, so isn't it up to you to do something about LIPA?
This is, you know, we're doing everything we can with LIPA National Grid, with Con Ed, with Orange and Rockland, with all of them. You know, it is what it is at one point, Kathy. You have, we're pushing them as hard as we can. Their point is there's catastrophic damage. We're bringing in more crews from all across the country because it's basically a function of personnel at this point. You know, it's labor. It's especially in Westchester and Long Island. This is about down trees and tree cutters and poles and wires and linemen and bucket trucks. So the more crews we get in, the faster the repairs. But look, you have 90%, as we just saw, close to 90% of the people on Long Island were without power. You know, that is I'm the harshest critic of the utilities. That is also a reality that has to be dealt with.
But what do you think about this specific plan? Do you think it seems to me that it's sort of taking your authority, or seeking to take your authority, and hand it over to federal agencies? I'm just trying to get you to comment a little more specifically on what they're calling for.
What I heard that maybe we heard different things. I heard that they're calling for more federal assistance in assisting LIPA, the utilities, and by the way, the people in Westchester want more assistance for Westchester utilities, and the people in New York City want more assistance for Con Ed, right? Everybody without power wants help now. Now. I want it from the city, I want it from the state, I want it from the federal government, I want the mayor to do it, I want the governor to do it, and I want the president of the United States to do it.
Yeah, but Ed Manganon, at least yesterday, was calling for the military.
I want the military, I want the president here in the truck, I want the mayor, I want the governor. People want as much help as they can get. I understand that.
But do you want the military to manage LIPA, which is what he was talking about?
I don't know what he was talking about, Kathy. I know that he wants more assistance, and he wants help for the people of Nassau. I want help for the people of New York. I want the utilities to work better and faster. I want more federal assistance. You know, we all want the same thing. You have people without power for a very long time. It's gotten cold. It's uncomfortable. Yes, we're understanding, but we're also impatient, and we want more and we want it faster. And that's human nature, and I don't think that's going to stop until all people have their power on, period.
Governor, on the situation in the Senate, does it need to be worked out, whatever is going to happen before January 2nd, State of the State in the beginning? Are you confident it will be worked out? And could you see it going either way, either a coalition with the Republicans or with the Democrats and the other parties?
I haven't followed it closely enough, Zach, because I've been following this. Also, I don't believe it's the governor's place to get involved, and I'm confident that they will work it out amongst themselves. You have some races that aren't decided yet, so literally they're still counting ballots in some races, and those races could tip the balance one way or the other. If that doesn't happen, you then also have these shifting alliances among the Senate. There are different factions, if you will. So I don't know how it sorts out at the end of the day. You're going to have to count the ballots, then you're going to have to see how the factions sort out and what alliances they make. And, you know, that's up to them. And whoever wins, I'll work with whoever wins.
Can I have one more?
Go ahead.
No other hands are raised. A colleague has a question that I was asked to ask you. After Irene, did you, I know you've commented on your contacts and communications with LIPA, but after Irene, did you or your staff sit down with LIPA management and insist that they come up with a better recovery plan for this area?
You know, you have to remember, first of all, LIPA. LIPA is basically a holding company, and National Grid is the provider of the services, the way Con Ed is the provider of the services, or Orange and Rockland, et cetera. And most of our communication is with National Grid,
Okay.
because they actually provide the service.
All right, then apply my question to National Grid.
There have been numerous conversations with all the utilities, over and over and over. Now remember, Irene was basically an upstate phenomenon. And most of the conversations were about upstate New York. That's where the damage was done. But this has been an ongoing conversation for some time. Now, I also think it's a different conversation than it's ever been before. And I hope one of the silver linings to this situation is we actually get that there is a new reality in life. And the new reality is these storms are coming, and extreme weather is coming. And I know you can think, well, hurricanes don't happen in New York. Yeah, I know. At one time they didn't. Now they do. And now we have ice storms that we never had in the fall. And we have floods in the summer. And we never had any of this. So it's not having utility companies that are prepared to deal with the weather of the 1950s and the 1960s. It's having them deal with weather patterns that are emerging, frankly, and that we don't even understand yet. And I think that's a challenge for us all across the board. The power system is part of it. The communication system is part of it. The fuel delivery system is part of it. I mean, you want to paralyze a region, as we learned. Just stop the fuel delivery for 2 days. All of this we see, this is 2 days of fuel delivery supply cut off. So we're going to have to look at all of these systems. Not did they work 10 years ago. Will they work 10 years from now? And these systems are the circulatory system of the region. You stop one of these systems, you paralyze the region. Power, transportation, communication, fuel, you paralyze the region. And that's the new reality, and this will happen again, or something like this will happen again. And if we're smart, fool me once. If we're smart, we're ready for it. And that's what we'll be talking about in the months ahead. Thanks very much.